You can have you.
Main event of the evening.
Ready to race to you.
These days are
Happy days.
These days are
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today, you'll be discussing Season 4, Episode 13, Time Capsule.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens in Time Capsule.
We open in winter, with Richie and Joni carrying boxes into the Cunningham house. Joni is only helping Richie so he'll, 1, tell Mary and Jenny Piccolo isn't boy crazy so Joni can spend the night at her house, and 2,
I also need 50 cents. Jenny Piccolo's charging admission.
Admission?
Yeah. She has a Sunbather magazine.
Marion comes downstairs and is aghast at the junk in the living room, including an anchor for some reason. Richie explains it's for the school time capsule.
It's supposed to be at the gym.
Well, Potsie dropped the anchor on the gym floor and the coach attacked him with the barbell. What was I supposed to do?
I don't care about that.
He and Marion argue as Howard comes inside. Joni asks him for 50 cents, which Howard gives her after a kiss on the cheek. Joni leaves, and Marion shows the assorted junk to Howard. Richie says Howard wouldn't let them use his vault, and as he and Marion start arguing again, Howard interrupts them and asks for a few minutes of peace and quiet. In storms Fonzie, who demands they call the police because someone stole one of his t-shirts. Richie points out they're identical. Fonzie was able to identify it as missing because they're numbered, and Richie took number 23. As Howard tries to calm everyone down, Richie and Marion again bring up the vault at Cunningham Hardware, from when the store was a pawn shop. Howard has a safe now and doesn't use the vault for anything, aside from naps in his hammock. Howard says a man needs a place to get away from everything, and asks Fonzie if he understands.
I do indeed, but I ain't your wife.
Marion asks what he really does there, and Howard says if he was going to do anything, he wouldn't do it at the store. Marion asks where he would do it, and Howard surrenders the vault to Richie. Marion promises Howard a pork chop dinner,
Pork chop sandwiches!
but he offers to instead take her out and they depart together. Richie returns Fonzie's shirt. He says Fonzie has to give them something for the time capsule to be opened in 100 years, when it'll be the 50s again, and the people of those 50s will want to know about their 50s, and they're going to want to know about the Fonz. Fonzie is convinced, though he also seems to think he'll still be there in 100 years, so, the next day at Arnold's. Al is annoyed at Richie, Potsie, and Ralph for cluttering up his place for 4 hours when they said it would be 1. He's mollified when Potsie shows him they're putting one of his menus in the time capsule.
What's the specialty? Chicken fricassee and meatballs. That's good, no fish.
He meets Miss Radcliffe from the Board of Education on Special Projects, who thanks him for letting him use his place, and Al takes his coonskin cap to go make his cook laugh. Fonzie arrives and takes Richie aside to show him what he's donating for the time capsule. It's his original leather jacket, with lipstick stain from Lucy Bergdorf, who was 16 to Fonzie's 7. Moving on from that horrifying revelation, Fonzie expresses an interest in Miss Radcliffe. Richie says she's a cold fish, but Fonzie hits on her anyway. All he gets is a,
On behalf of the Board of Education, it's nice meeting you.
before she leaves. The girls helping Miss Radcliffe, Candy and Rebecca, see they've been told to do anything the boys say. Something Ralph takes the opportunity to be creepy about, before Potsie says to finish loading up the boxes and go home. Ralph complains he's such a Potsie. Richie tells Ralph and Potsie he'll finish packing and they can go. Potsie suggests taking the girls to Inspiration Point, even though it's 4 degrees outside. As Ralph and Potsie are about to leave, out comes another girl, Kim, who was waiting for Richie. Richie suggests that all of them go down into the vault. He promised Kim she could help pick what went into the time capsule. Rebecca thanks them using overly flowery language.
What a magnanimous gesture on your part to allow us to play this role in history.
Potsie is confused but delighted. He's going with the smartest chick in class. Ralph says he's more lucky. He's with the dumbest. The 6 of them arrive at the vault. They notice a box moving, and Fonzie steps out. He tries to get them to leave, only for Miss Radcliffe to also come out and then quickly leave.
Well, everything seems in its place, and you're all in your place, and I'm leaving this place.
Potsie closes the door behind her, and Richie, horrified, says they're locked in there. Ralph panics and pounds the door, as do most of them. Ralph attacks Potsie, though he's talked down by Fonzie. Richie says he can't open the vault since it only opens from the outside. On the bright side, his dad will be coming by to let them out on Monday. And it's Friday. Ralph says he has a plan, and everyone steps back. Then Ralph throws himself at the steel door. It doesn't work. Ralph, again panicking, says he has claustrophobia. Rebecca calls claustrophobia an emotional response to an irrational problem. Ralph threatens to shove her. Richie says for everyone to calm down. They're going to get out of this Monday. Richie and Fonzie sit apart together. Richie says he thinks it's unfair that girls get to be scared and cry, while the guys have to put up fronts. He tells everyone that from now on, no fronts. If you want to cry, then cry. Ralph starts sobbing into Richie's shoulder. Fonzie takes over. Since they don't have any food, He tells Potsie to sing to make them forget about their hunger, while Kim plays the ukulele. Potsie starts singing Get Happy,
Forget troubles, come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment day.
Potsie.
which is deemed insufficiently cheerful by Fonzie. He switches to Lollipop. An unspecified amount of time later, Potsie finishes singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot,
Swing low, sweet chariot.
and falls asleep. The girls already have, and Ralph is basically completely shut down and is standing next to a couple of mannequins also in the vault. Richie talks to Fonzie, the only other conscious person, who says he doesn't sleep on the weekends. Richie kind of apologizes for lousing up Fonzie's date with Miss Radcliffe. Fonzie invites Richie to sit down with him. Richie admits
I can't figure out how the air gets in here.
and both him and Fonzie decide not to tell the others of the girls, and Ralph, don't cry. Richie tells Fonzie that now that he's in trouble, he's been thinking about his life, and he's realized he never kissed his Aunt Bessie. He'd always move away and give her a hug.
Fonzie says he was a kid.
And Richie says it was last Wednesday. He swears that if they get out, he's going to be a different person with Aunt Bessie. Fonzie asks why Richie is talking crazy, and Richie admits he's nervous, then admits he's scared, something he assumes Fonzie doesn't know about. Fonzie says that being on the road as long as he has, he will understand scared. Richie is surprised. Fonzie always said he liked being on his own and never needed a family. Fonzie says the only advice his father ever gave him was to pat him on the head and say,
Fonzarelli, don't go out in the rain in your socks.
Richie finds it touching, although he doesn't know what it means. Neither does Fonzie, who has been trying to figure it out for years. Richie puts a hand on his shoulder and says they have plenty of time tonight. Later,
Ralph snaps out of his fugue state and eats some candy he has hidden.
his starry companions swarm him, and Kim is about to smash him in the face with the ukulele, only for Fonzie to stop them and demand an explanation from Ralph. Ralph admits he was going to hold out for longer,
I couldn't do it to my friends.
There are noises from outside.
but Fonzie keeps everything calm and has everyone sit down like they're having a picnic. In come two robbers, who are scared off by Fonzie. While Fonzie is out, Potsie tries to close the door to keep the robbers out, but Fonzie's timely return stops that from happening. Fonzie got the robbers' license plate, so they can all go home now. Potsie and Rebecca leave, as do Ralph and Candy. Kim asks if Richie can get the vault for tomorrow night, which is an odd question when they all just had a super traumatic experience there, but Richie says that can be arranged anyway.
She tells him he was brave.
Kisses him, and leaves. Fonzie gives Richie the license number and make of the robber's car to give to Howard. Richie, somewhat unintelligibly,
Thanks, Fonzie, for being the only one not to go crazy.
Everybody was jumping up, and then the robbers, and then you see, we were all kind of, but you were just.
he says that you learn a lot about yourself under pressure, and people act differently when they're scared. But not Fonzie, of course. He was just playing along to make Richie feel better. As they leave, Fonzie says to the heavens above, I know you know, but he don't have to. The next night at the Cunningham house, the Cunninghams are recording a message for the time capsule. Howard claims they were personally chosen by President Eisenhower. After all, who's going to be around to call him a liar? Marion says that
Well, I hope they let women do more and have more say by the time this capsule is opened.
Howard calls her pushy, and the studio audience cheers. Assholes. Richie sings a snippet of Blueberry Hill, and Joni claims to be being held prisoner in her room. Fonzie simply says,
Thank you, Peter. That was Time Capsule, which first aired back on January 11th, 1977. That night, Happy Days was the lead into a brand new Laverne and Shirley, in which the girls play hooky from work at the brewery. On NBC, there was the first episode of a Baba Black Sheep two-parter called The Deadliest Enemy of All, and CBS had a new installment of its news magazine, Who's Who.
Like who, what, where, now what, who, where.
Time Capsule was directed by Jerry Paris, and it was written by the team of David Ketchum and Anthony DeMarco. We've talked a little bit about David before. He was an accomplished actor and writer who frequently worked with Gary Marshall. On Happy Days alone, he had previously written Haunted and guest starred in Rotsey. As for Anthony, this was his first credit on Happy Days, but he frequently wrote with David Ketchum in the 70s and 80s on lots of TV shows, including MacGyver and Lottery. It looks like Dave and Anthony's last script together was a 1990 episode of Full House. As for guest stars this week, let's start with Susan Cotton as Miss Radcliffe. Mainly a TV actress of the 70s and 80s, Gary Marshall used her again on Joni Loves Chachi, plus his films Young Doctors in Love and Nothing in Common. And she will be back on Happy Days next season. So, Peter, what did you think of Susan Cotton?
She basically only exists for the single joke of Fonzie striking out with her and then later turning out to have won her over. I will say that I thought that it was kind of funny when she just noped right out of the vault when the others showed up. That was pretty amusing. She's probably been better in other stuff because she's probably gotten more to do.
I found Miss Radcliffe to be kind of intriguing. What is her life like? By day, she's a member of the Board of Education, and by night, she's going out with greaser mechanics. She actually has a pretty active romantic life as well. So I kind of thought she was an intriguing character. Then we have our trio of girls that get stuck in the vault. And we will start with Linda Goodfriend as Kim, a.k.a. Chestnut in the Mixed Nuts. A Miami-born actress, Linda will return as Kim later this season, and she'll start playing Lori Beth next season, which is a part she'll play for the rest of Happy Days. She's also Sunshine Aquilino on the Happy Days spinoff Lansky's Beauties. Gary Marshall again cast her in his films Nothing in Common, Beaches, Pretty Woman, and Exit to Eden. In recent years, Linda has become an acting teacher specializing in working with children. And first, I will have to ask you a question. I will defer to your knowledge on this. Does Kim eventually turn into Lori Beth, or is Lori Beth treated as a brand new person?
Lori Beth is treated as a brand new person. And weirdly enough, if I'm remembering this correctly, in Lori Beth's introductory episode, it's mentioned that she went to the same high school as Richie, they just never talked. So were Lori Beth and Kim both going to Jefferson High School and being identical, and did they ever interact?
That's what I was curious about, because certainly these two would have run into each other and found it remarkable how much they looked and talked like each other. And besides, I thought this would have been a good first date origin story for Richie and Lori Beth. Like on their first date, they got trapped in a vault for a weekend or something. But apparently, no, I guess it was a different character. So I will ask, what did you think of Linda Goodfriend as Kim?
I liked her a lot. I thought she was pretty good. I don't know that I really got a lot of sense of her personality, although I did find it mildly amusing that immediately after all of them get out of the vault, where they all thought they were going to possibly starve to death or asphyxiate or just be trapped for 2 days, she asked Richie, hey.
It was fun. Can you get the vault for tomorrow night?
And Richie seems to agree.
Yeah, that's what I thought about Kim, is that she seemed like a fun date and someone who was actually pretty good at rolling with the punches. She was eager to get back in the vault again, so she wasn't frightened of the place at all. So I thought that was an intriguing character.
We also have
Kim O'Brien as Candy, a.k.a. Walnut in the Assorted Nuts. Kim worked mostly in TV in the 70s and 80s. You may have seen her on Mary Hartman. Policewoman, Gunsmoke, Highway to Heaven,
and the new Mike Hammer.
So, Peter, did you have any particular feelings about Kim O'Brien as Candy?
She didn't have much in the way of personality or much to do. Ralph says she's the dumbest girl in class, so that's something, but she doesn't do anything to show that she's dumb. She seems smarter than Potsie, but that's probably just because she doesn't do much.
She didn't seem particularly dumb to me, so I thought that was a pretty
unfair
label to put on her.
Well, I mean, Potsie is definitely the dumbest boy in class. Maybe there's like a gulf between dumbest boy and dumbest girl.
There definitely is at Jefferson High. And last but not least, we have Eileen Dietz as Rebecca, a.k.a. Pecan, the smart one. A New York actress, Eileen has been very busy in film and TV since the late 1960s. Of her dozens of roles, the best remembered is obviously Pazuzu, the demon from 1973's The Exorcist.
The one hope, the only hope, The Exorcist.
Eileen's other credits include General Hospital, Creepshow 3, Halloween 2, and Constantine, as well as the TV movie Helter Skelter. So what did you think of Eileen Dietz as Rebecca?
She was pretty fun, even if her intelligence seems mostly limited to using big words and telling Ralph that his claustrophobia is irrational, which maybe it is, but like, he's scared, you're all trapped in a vault. It's a good time to get emotional.
I thought so, too. I thought she was being a little unnecessarily judgmental of Ralph in that scene. But I was very excited to have a cast member from The Exorcist show up in Happy Days. So
yeah, it's always fun when, like, people from other 70s pop culture show up on Happy Days. Like when Maureen McCormick showed up.
Yeah, when people from other iconic pop culture things show up on Happy Days, it is pretty cool. Frenchie from Grease was definitely on there.
And, Kinnicky also from Grease?
Yeah, wow. We've had a lot of Grease crossovers, but I think this was our first Exorcist crossover. As for songs this week, we have Get Happy as performed by Anson Williams. It was originally written by Harold Arlen and Ted Koehler in 1930. It was famously performed by Judy Garland in the 1950 film Summer Stock.
Forget your troubles, come on, get happy. You better chase all your cares away.
Lollipop is also performed by Anson Williams. It was a hit for the Chordettes. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot is also performed by Anson Williams. It's a Negro spiritual written after the Civil War by Wallace Willis, who was actually Choctaw. And Blueberry Hill, of course, is performed by Ron Howard. Cultural historical references for the week. In the first establishing shot of the episode, we see a billboard for Jacquin's, a Philadelphia-based producer of alcoholic beverages. It was founded in 1884 and is still going today. Joni mentions that Jenny Piccolo has a Sunbather magazine. In the 50s and 60s, there were were numerous magazines and films about nudists or naturists, sometimes called sunbathers. This was a common way of dodging anti-pornography laws, since the magazines and films always promoted a healthful, wholesome aspect of the lifestyle, playing volleyball and, jumping around on pogo sticks and things like that.
Of course.
The term time capsule only seems to
Go back
as far as 1938, though people have been preserving items this way since the 1700s. The concept is highly associated with the 1939 World's Fair, in which the Westinghouse Company created a 900-pound time capsule filled with ordinary household objects.
Time capsule of cupoli, deposited on the site of the New York World's Fair on September 23, 1938, by the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company. If anyone should come upon this capsule before the year AD 6939, let him not wantonly disturb it, for to do so would be to deprive the people of that era of the legacy here left them.
What Fonzie calls his Mechanics magazine is actually a 1971 catalog called the Automotive Accessories Parts Book, released by J.C. Whitney, a Chicago-based company specializing in aftermarket car parts. Jane Russell is mentioned. She was a
movie sex symbol
of the 40s and 50s. Her career was highly promoted by the wealthy, eccentric businessman Howard Hughes. Hughes himself directed and produced Jane's breakout film The Outlaw, made in 1941, but it was not released until 1943 because of problems with the censors. And by the late 1950s, Jane was still playing sex spot roles in films like The Fuzzy Pink Nightgown. Although the term TV dinner might seem generic nowadays, it was actually a brand name back then. Thanks to advances in technology, the Swanson Company of Omaha introduced the TV dinner in 1954. They came packed in boxes meant to resemble TV screens. Swanson started with the turkey dinner, then they added the beef dinner, the chicken dinner, and my favorite, the haddock dinner.
Yum.
Al shows Miss Radcliffe
coonskin cap. These furry hats became a national craze after the Davy Crockett TV miniseries of 1954 and 1955, produced by Disney. Another time capsule item is the hula hoop, invented by Arthur K. Spud Mellon and Richard Nur in 1958, and successfully marketed by the Wham-O Company. The hula hoop became a quintessential late 50s fad.
I developed it myself. Yes, sirree, this is my ticket upstairs. For kids.
There's another movie poster at Arnold's this week. It's Tarzan's
Secret Treasure,
a 1941 classic with Johnny Weissmuller and Maureen O'Sullivan. There's a mannequin in the vault wearing a poodle skirt. We've talked about poodle skirts before, another 50s fad. They actually date back to 1947, and a singer and actress, Julie Lynn Charlotte, who as of this recording is still with us at age 97. Another item in the vault is a small bronze replica of the Marine Corps War Memorial depicting the raising the flag at Iwo Jima. The statue, based on an iconic photo, was unveiled in Arlington, Virginia in 1954. I looked into this. Modern bank vaults have escape latches built on the inside in case of emergency, but older ones did not. And suffocation was a possibility, so this episode is historically accurate. Did you find that aspect of the episode plausible, that you could get locked into a bank vault and possibly suffocate?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I'm not really on any grounds to dispute it. It sounds plausible enough to me.
Claustrophobia is an extremely common fear affecting perhaps 10% of the population, and it is not entirely irrational, as human beings may be genetically predisposed to avoiding small, cramped spaces. So maybe we should not judge Ralph Melf so harshly.
Well, no, we shouldn't. I mean, it's honestly pretty sensible to be terrified when you're trapped somewhere where you could suffocate and or starve and die.
Exactly. Ralph is being perfectly normal here. Orson Welles is mentioned.
Put a microphone in his hands and he thinks he's Orson Welles.
He may have had a celebrated career in film and theater, but to many people he will be best known for his extensive radio work on such shows as the Mercury Theater on the Air, The Shadow, the Campbell Playhouse, and many more. Other observations this week. Joni's beret from A Date with Fonzie is back.
Yay.
And Marion really gets upset about those boxes in the living room, and Richie is way more combative than he normally is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that.
They really get passionate over this.
Maybe it was all staged so they could get Howard to let Richie and company use the vault.
That might have been it. I do like the idea of the Fonz having a closet full of identical outfits. It's sort of like what Albert Einstein is supposed to have had. He didn't want to think about what to wear every day, so he just had like a whole closet full of the same outfit. I think that's Fonzie's thing, too, is he just wants to wear the same thing every day.
Well, in his case, it's probably more along the lines of he has an image and he's sticking to it.
I did notice that it was Potsie who says that Al is a second father, which I thought was a very telling remark on his. This is the first time that Al calls his cook Clarence. As far as I know, Clarence will not be seen until season 10. So I guess this was another one of those characters that they talked about and who's off-screen, but who eventually becomes an on-screen character.
Yep.
Well, they do that kind of a lot. Jenny Piccolo and Arnold. Arnold was just talked about and then finally seen. So Fonz, we need to talk about this for a moment here.
Yeah.
Fonz had some kind of romantic interlude with a 16-year-old girl named Lucy Bergdorf when he was only 7.
See that right there, that lipstick stain right there?
Yeah.
That's Lucy Bergdorf. I was 7, she was 16, and did she learn fast?
So the police might want to interview Lucy about that one.
Yeah, it's really disturbing, especially because, like, being extremely promiscuous can be a response to childhood sexual abuse. So it kind of raises a lot of questions about how much of an impact this had on Fonzie.
Yeah, maybe this is the origin of Fonzie. He had this traumatic incident with Lucy Bergdorf when he was 7 years old. Jeez.
It's way darker than I think Happy Days realize, and way darker than they are equipped to deal with.
Yeah, really. I do like how Ralph totally shuts down during the crisis and becomes a living mannequin.
It was dark but funny.
And does Richie ever mention Aunt Bessie again? Or is this the end of the Aunt Bessie saga?
It might be the end. Maybe she died.
I will remember you. Will you remember me?
So don't go out in the rain in your socks. Happens to be good advice. Wet feet do not cause colds, viruses do, but wet feet can wrinkle and blister, which is both unhealthy and painful, say podiatrists. So I looked through podiatry websites for advice.
So you're taking Fonzie's terrible father's advice literally.
Very literally. I think he just meant it very literally.
Yo, man, you need to stop getting figurative and start getting literal.
And this was the one moment that I think
Linda Goodfriend
really established her character. Kim is fully ready to hit Ralph with that ukulele. So that to me is marriage material right there. That's what I thought was so great. She's like fully ready to hit him when she thinks he's hoarding food. So that's why I was hoping that Kim was kind of retconned into being Lori Beth, but I guess not.
That's kind of something I really enjoyed about this episode, like how quickly everyone is to start attempting to murder each other.
Would you consider this to be a bottle episode?
Are we going to the puppy parade or not? Because this is starting to feel like a bottle episode.
Again with the TV crap.
I hate bottle episodes. They're wall-to-wall facial expression and emotional nuance. I might as well sit in the corner with a bucket on my head.
Not really, because it takes place in 3 different locations. You've got the Cunningham house, you've got Arnold's, and then you've got the vault. So, sadly, no.
It takes a long time to get to it. They, in fact, don't get locked into the vault until about the halfway point in the episode. But it is a way of getting the characters stuck in one place together. So I will ask, were there any outstanding Happy Days fashions this week?
Well, as we mentioned, the girls are all in the Assorted Nuts gang. I think this is like the first time showing up in season 4 and in a while. And they've got really snazzy jackets. They're red, they're cloth. And on the back, they have Assorted Nuts and their nut name in big block white letters. And they look really nice.
So did you have any other observations that you want to make about Time Capsule?
When Marion's saying she hoped that in the future women had more to do and had more say, and Howard telling her she was being pushy, got cheers from the studio audience.
Well, I hope they let women do more and have more say by the time this capsule is opened.
That's a little pushy, Marion.
Somebody has to say it.
And a side note, something I find kind of interesting in this episode is how Richie keeps expecting the girls to start crying, which is, sexist, but at the same time, that never happens. The girls are clearly as nervous as the guys are, but they're not crying. The one who's the most scared and crying is Ralph, and I don't think it's an unreasonable response, but I do think it's interesting that Richie expects that from the girls, but on the other hand, he also acknowledges that. I think on some level, he is also scared. He wants to be able to express that fear in a way that the girls would hypothetically be allowed to, whereas he and the other guys are not. Potsie seems pretty chill about the whole thing, but he's also very dumb. I just find it kind of interesting. It's kind of sexist, but at the same time, they're all trapped in a vault, and it's the 1950s, so it's not necessarily out of nowhere.
So I will ask you that age-old, timeless question, was this episode any good?
It was. Once it gets into the vault, it turns into this weird claustrophobic little thing where the characters are almost constantly at each other's throats because of the stress of being trapped in this place, and Fonzie kind of has to be the stabilizing influence on everyone. And Richie's trying to be that too, but he's not very good at it because he's just as nervous as they are. I will say that I think it would have been better without the horrifying revelation about Fonzie's past that they are not equipped to talk about.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of thing that was meant as a lighthearted joke at the time, but I think sensibilities
have changed in the decades since this episode originally aired.
The 70s were weird.
70s were weird in a lot of ways. I overall think this was an enjoyable episode.
It's fun to see the characters
get stuck in this kind of bad situation and a potentially tense situation, and how they deal with it is kind of funny to watch. And I liked the bonding between Richie and Fonzie when they sit
together on the hammock
and they talk about different issues. You know, Richie talking about how he never kissed his Aunt Bessie and how they discuss, I don't know how the air gets into here.
And Richie tries to laugh it off.
But he's scared as well. So this was an enjoyable little episode. I don't know that it'll be one of the more memorable ones from season 4, but I enjoyed it pretty well.
And plus we get a lot of Fonzie and Richie being friends and comforting each other when they think they might possibly die. So that's nice.
Yeah, this is another good bonding moment for them. So, Peter, can you tell the audience how they can keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things that we are doing?
Listeners can follow us on Twitter at Fonzie Podcast. They can follow me on Twitter at Sphericals. That's SFERICALS.
And they can follow me on Twitter at Joe_A_Blevins. They can find this podcast online at thesedaysaroours.libsyn.com. And they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysaroourspodcast@gmail.com. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket for next week?
Next week, it's Book of Records, an episode I remember nothing about, and the title isn't really jogging any memories. I think it involves world records, which is kind of a stock plot in a lot of sitcoms, so let's go with that.
Yeah, let's. So, see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Scared in case I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you, and I'm wondering what it is I should do. It's so hard to keep the smile from my face. Losing control, yeah, I'm all over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Pork chop sandwiches.